Welcome to our new interview with artists. This is a series of interviews with designers, illustrators, and creatives all over the world. And today our guest is Amy Stone. She is an abstract artist, and her artworks are represented globally in different exhibitions and galleries. And it's so fantastic to have this chance to ask Amy about how she creates her beautiful abstract artworks, the exploration of femininity in abstract art. Also, I will ask Amy about some insights of building and global art career, which is really interesting, and how to balance family life and art, how to navigate exhibitions, and many other questions about art, art career. So if you also have any questions, you're very welcome to drop them in the comments and we will answer them. And Amy, please send me the request and I will add you to the interview, to the live. Also, everyone, if you want to receive all the highlights from this interview, you're welcome to subscribe to the newsletter. Then you will get everything into your inbox. There is a comment that you can hear me clearly. Please let me know if anyone else have the same, if the sound is good enough or not. Amy, I just sent you the invitation, so it should be on your phone. You sound far away. Okay.
Hey, it worked.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Can you hear me well? Because there are some comments that the sound isn't good enough.
I can hear you well, but I have my
Okay.
AirPods in.
Okay. Then everything. I'm here. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, good too. Thank you for coming. And I love your artworks on the background.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is the newest piece that I'm
It's
working on
one
back there.
it's one big canvas, right?
Yeah, it's
It's
about 6 feet by, or 3 feet by
um,
6 or 7 feet. Yeah.
it's so interesting to know about your creative process, and we will move forward to these questions. But first of all, could you please share with us your artistic journey a little bit? That I know that you studied fine art, right, and literature,
I,
and
s- I studied fine arts and comparative literature at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And then I moved back to New York where I grew up. I moved into New York City right after 9/11, which was crazy. And I basically did everything but paint for almost 15 years. Um, I was in the wine industry, I was in advertising, I worked in restaurants, I worked in cheese caves. I did it all, but I felt really intimidated in New York by the entire art industry, and I also felt like I had no space or room to breathe to be able to create. Um, so when I moved to Seattle in 2014 with my family, I started drawing again consistently, like every day, um, with pastels, and started showing work here. And a couple years later, in 2016, I had my second son, and he was about 7 or 8 months old when I bought a painting from a local artist, and I went to her studio to pick it up. And my son was crawling around the studio, and we were chatting. And I came home that day, put him down for a nap, and said to myself, "Why aren't I can do that? Why aren't I painting?" And I pulled out all of my stuff that I still had from college, which was like almost 15 years old at that point, and I did my first painting in however many years, or I started painting again, and I haven't looked back.
that's wonderful. Was it hard for you to make this decision? Was it scary, or did you have any doubts at the time?
No, it kind of just was very organic, and everything happened at the time I feel like when it needed to. Um, yeah, I had an Instagram page already for my drawings that I was doing and showing around Seattle, and yeah, people started asking me for commissions, and through word of mouth, their friends started asking me for work, and people were really interested in what I was painting, and I just started showing that instead of my pastels, and then I incorporated pastels into the paint, and I became mixed media artist, and here I am, however
Mm-hmm.
many years later. It was, I think it's more scary for me now because Instagram was a real big hit back then. um, in terms of selling my work, and now it's changed
Mm-hmm.
for
And
me, at least.
if you talk about your artistic style, many years ago it was a little bit different, or maybe it differs a lot now. Can you maybe share with us how it evolved and what was the topic that you were interested about that time? Is there
Sure.
any
When I
changes?
was when I was drawing, I was focusing a lot on faces, like fun faces that I was creating at that time. And then when I started painting again, it was all abstract. And I think just playing around and looking at what other artists were doing and buying art from other artists to see their work up close. I kind of developed my own style, and abstraction turned into um, like abstraction with the female form in my own way. And I kind of leaned into that and tell my own story now.
Mhm. Did you have any plan of what to draw, how to draw that time? I mean, that you described the situation when you just decide, okay, if, I want to draw with, I want to paint, and you started to paint.
Mm-hmm.
And was there any plan or idea, or maybe you were just following your passion and everything just was
I
organically?
I kind of feel like it's the way I live life. I don't have a plan. It kind of just comes. My work is really intuitive. Even if I have a plan, once I start going, I kind of lose myself in it and everything changes. And I just go with the flow, I guess. No
Maybe
pun
someone helped
intended.
you. Maybe someone helped you, or was it just only your followers on Instagram? You said that you had a commission already that time.
Hmm.
How did it happen? Because many artists paint, draw, but it doesn't mean that they're commissioned.
Again, friends started saying to me, "Oh my God, I love your painting so much. Can you make something for me?" And I would go in, I would measure, we would talk about what they wanted. I didn't really have a style back then. I was kind of just like
Hmm.
slapping paint on the canvas. But, I have a background in art. I've been painting since I was 6, probably even earlier than that, but I started taking lessons at 6. I painted with my grandfather when I was growing up. And so I have the technical abilities, and, like I have color down. I know what to do with a composition. So while I was finding my style, it was just an evolution, I guess. And
Hmm.
so people would see work in friends' houses, and then somebody else would ask me for a commission, and it just kind of happened really easily at that point, I
Hmm.
guess.
And was it hard for you to price the work at the beginning?
Oh yeah, I was basically giving work away. And that's how I really think that that's how you can get your work out there. I was hanging work wherever anybody would let me hang it. I was doing giveaways. My prices were very low because I didn't know what I was doing. And eventually I, you know, did more research and talked to gallery owners and curators and learned how to price my work and how I felt comfortable doing it. And yeah,
Hmm.
I like to sell work. I like to, I like, I would rather people that appreciate my work have it than it sit in my studio waiting for somebody who could afford to pay $20,000 for it, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Do you remember your first exhibition?
My first exhibition was at yes, at a little place here called Pelmeni Dumplings Are. It was in 2014, and it was during one of the art walks here in Seattle, and it was really fun. I think I had maybe 10 or so drawings up at that
How
point. It was
how
fun.
how did you find the gallery? What did you do
It
to
was
make
just
it happen?
a little restaurant. So they have art walks all over town in Seattle. And I would just go on the various pages that listed all the places for art walks. And I would just contact them, email them, walk in, ask if I could hang my work. And yeah, I stopped
And
doing that. I stopped doing art walks just after, or right when COVID started. Um, and I haven't really done any since, but I would be open to it again.
so now you work with the galleries, right? You have you're part of a gallery, or how does it work? Can you explain a little bit about that?
I have work at three galleries. One of them is in Sag Harbor in New York, Monica Ockel Gallery. The other one is in Atlanta. They're called Greg Irby Gallery. And the third one is in Lenox, Massachusetts. And that gallery is called His Daughter Paloma, named after um, Picasso's daughter.
It would be wonderful if you could share kind of tips and advice for other artists, how to find galleries, how to make the first pitch, or how to contact them. What are the steps to be?
Yeah.
Uh, mhm.
So I got, like I said, I got really lucky early on. Instagram was really made a really big difference for me through connections and people contacting me. And so a lot of the contacts that I made in the beginning were people contacting me saying they love my work and or offering to have me send them some work. And so um, early on, I kind of just sent work to whatever gallery would take my work. And then I learned that I didn't want to have work sitting around forever. And so I started to kind of pick and choose. And so I will go and research places throughout the country where my work sells well directly from me. And I'll reach out to galleries that I feel like my work would be a good fit at. And so the way I do that is I don't want my work to be the same as other artists that are there, but I want it to complement their work. And I feel like that type of setting is, or yeah, that is what works for me. Um, and then, obviously for every yes that I get 20,000 no's.
Mhm.
Or not 20,000, but it's not easy. Being a professional artist is certainly not for the faint of heart.
Mhm. You also mentioned that you have a curator, right? Someone who helps you with.
No, I
No?
don't. I don't. Mm-mm. It's a one man show. Just me trying
Hmm.
to figure it
Uh,
out.
uh, and what are the conditions on collaborating with galleries? So what should be other artists pay attention in the contracts? Based on your experience.
Yeah, I think at this point, most galleries are 50-50 split, which when galleries are moving your work, it's worth it. And when they're not, sometimes it's intimidating. But again, it's just you're getting your name out there. You are doing what you love, and there's somebody there to help spread the love and your name around.
Hmm. So there, when you have the new contract with the new gallery, are there any things that you pay attention on in this contract, which is
Um,
very important?
I think it depends on the gallery, but I just make sure that if that it goes both ways for me and for the gallery. So we want to make sure that it's the best fit. So if my work's not selling, um, I don't want them to be tied to it and vice versa. And so I don't like to sign contracts where people can have my work for more than a year. I do think that
Mm-hmm.
it takes a while to pick up and get going. So you want to give them some time to, you know, get your name out there with their clients. And a lot of times it's a whole process in selling a piece. It's not just, oh, hey, I want to buy that. It's people come back and so yeah, I like to make sure that after a year I can take my work back or they can send it back, vice versa.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think it's really helpful to know
Mhm.
such things. Could you please
By
walk
the
us through? Huh?
by the
Please,
way,
sorry.
I have no idea what I'm doing. I am just making it up as I go, just like everybody else. So, for anybody that thinks that they know what they're doing, I don't believe it.
But it definitely worked for you. You have
Yeah,
recognizable artistic style. You're selling your work, so it works.
yeah. I feel
Mhm.
fortunate and super happy that with every corner I've turned, my husband used to make fun of me that I've reinvented myself every 5 years with some new career, but it's now been what, 6 years, 7 years? So, or no, more than that. I can't add. 2016. It's been 8 years, 9 years. Here I
By the by, by the way, is it sometimes challenging for you to balance family, kids, and art? What is your experience in this?
Oh, for sure. I have two kids. I have two boys, almost 12 and almost 9. And
Mhm.
to be honest, I felt like I had a lot more time and it was a lot easier to get work done when they were little. They went to bed at 7 or 7:30, so I had hours in between when they went to bed and when I would go to bed. They napped, they were at daycare, whatnot, and now they talk back to me and they require me to be their chauffeur everywhere. But also, I love them so much and I love spending time with them. And I feel like I've definitely taken a step back from totally immersing myself and pushing myself over the last couple of years just to be with them because I know that this time goes so fast. So I'm working on that balance, especially moving into 2025, um, to try to find more me time and time for my work, um, more studio time, more time to market myself, um, while also balancing family. And so, yeah, it's a great time, but it's also a great challenge to try to do it all. Plus, we got a dog last year who eats my whole house.
Um, as I'm drawing and painting too, and I have two sons, my friends often ask me if I draw with my kids together, and I'm curious about and really not so often. I prefer to if I paint with kids, they paint. When I want
Yep.
to create, I create separately without anybody. What about you?
I think it's a mixed bag. When they were younger, I was able to paint more while they were in here doing their own thing. Um, my older son used to love to paint with me, not so much anymore. My younger son came in the other day as I was working on this, and you can see there's like some areas where he painted like right over
Ah.
here and right over here. And I could just, it's so funny because people tell me often that my work looks like a child did it, which I usually say thank you to. But it's, you can really see the difference in the marks of a child and a non-child. Theirs are so much more uninhibited. You have, because they're just, moving stuff around. Um, but it's fun to paint with them. I also prefer generally at this point to have my own time, and then do stuff with them on the side. How old are your kids?
9 years old and 5 years old.
Oh, so you're on the other side. Just
Yeah,
wait until,
but they don't go to bed at 7. No, they
really?
don't sleep. Yeah, yeah, they are not. They really go to bed at late time. I'm trying to ask them to sleep early, but they just can't sleep. I don't know.
It's My older son was always a good sleeper. My younger son, we have to bribe to go to bed on his own. And last night I said to him, okay, or we'll have to stay in there until he falls asleep most of the time. Last night I said, all right, we're done. I'm done. It's 9 o'clock. I have to go to bed. I'm tired. Um, and he said, what do I get for going to bed on my own tonight? And I said, a high five in the morning. And he just laughed and he said, okay, good night, mom. So I'm fingers crossed that's like the beginning of him going to bed on his own.
Mhm. Could you also please walk us through your creative process and how your creative routine usually look like? Is it your studio? Is it a part of your house?
Oh yeah, you can
What,
see
where?
very, this is my garage, which is
Ah,
also
okay.
my
Uh-huh.
studio. So we've converted the entire thing
Uh-huh.
into studio space. So I have, um, I keep some of
Materials.
my work over
Mm-hmm.
here. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I'm sitting and talking to you with my little light and table. I use the garage door is open throughout the summer and the spring, and basically until it gets too cold for me to keep it open. Because I love the natural light. Yep, I have some other stuff over here, and then I use this wall mainly. Um, I have an easel that I fold up. I mean, it's it's not pretty, but it's mine and it does the trick. And I love the fact that it's my own space. Nobody else is allowed here unless I let them.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't need time to spend just on the road to get there, so you can get there anytime. Like,
Exactly. I wish I had a three-car garage, but alas, it's a tiny one-car garage that uh, probably couldn't even fit a car
mm-hmm,
in. So yeah,
mm-hmm,
especially when my kids were younger, I didn't want to have to go to and from and have space somewhere else. And then it kind of just stuck. Hopefully one day I'll have studio space of my own, but right now this works.
mm-hmm. And how do you work on the new painting? Do you first have an idea in mind, or you just like start experimenting on the canvas? Maybe you do some sketches. I don't know.
I I'm not a huge sketcher. I don't have a sketchbook practice. I like to warm up like on smaller pieces of paper, just
Oh wow.
making some fun
Uh-huh.
stuff. Um, and so that's kind of just like how I warm up when I come into the studio. But yeah, I generally don't have a plan. Sometimes I'll have a plan of like, these are well, obviously I have some sort of a plan. So I usually know what palette I'm going to use. I pull out the main colors, um, especially if I'm working on a series. Um, but I don't necessarily have an idea of what the final piece is going to look like. For my general abstract work, I sometimes I start with a title, and so I like to kind of be inspired by that. Sometimes I just start with markings on a blank canvas, usually in pastel, uh, and then other times I just kind of listen to the music and see where it takes me. When I do work that is inspired more by forms, I lay down these marks and colors and abstraction first, and then I've always been really intrigued about what I see and perception, and the idea of what I'm seeing is completely different from what everybody else is seeing, even if we're looking at the same thing. And so I kind of go in and tease the marks or tease the shapes that I see, and then build out a painting from there. And I always wonder if people see the ladies that I am making, that I, that I'm, or the story that I'm telling. Maybe, maybe not. People have said to me, your paintings seem very unfinished or unresolved. And my response is usually, well, I want you to finish them in your mind. That's what it's there for.
Mhm. And you use the pastel. What kind of pastel? If you will talk a little
Oh
bit
yeah,
about the materials, the
sure.
combination of paint and pastels.
So I am a huge um, proponent of mixing things up, like whether it's in art, in fashion, whatnot. So you got to have some high end things, but then you got to also have some cheap things. So I love the Rembrandt pastels. Um, I've been using this brand since I was in college. These are chalk
Hmm.
pastels. I also love, where are they? Where's one of them? New Pastels. That's the brand. Or actually, I'm sorry, they're called, yeah, New Pastel, Prismacolor.
Hmm.
I love the marks that these make because they're,
Is it soft pastel or oil
yeah,
pastel? What
these,
kind?
so these are soft and chalk pastels, soft
Mm-hmm.
pastels.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah,
And
okay.
then I also love cheap Crayola crayons.
Ah.
Everybody asks about the pinks that I use. This is one of the
Hmm.
hot pinks that I use, and I love it.
Yeah, it's very vibrant.
Mm-hmm. And then I also have some, nicer, higher end oil pastels. Let's see.
Do you have
Here's some soft.
bigger pieces, or do you use these
This
small
is
ones?
probably the biggest
Uh,
piece that I have, and
uh,
I've used it like twice. I hate it. I like them to fall apart in my hands. I literally love when they're like, whoops, when they're like this big. I
oh,
love it.
wow.
I just feel like you can really like get your hands in there, get in it. Um, but yes, I also use this brand for oil pastels, um, Senlier.
Mm-hmm.
So these are
Yeah.
little higher end, but so they're a little thicker than the
Yeah.
crepas. And then I also love these. They're soft pastel pencils. I think the brand is
Ah,
Karen.
Karandash.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
Karandash.
And then these are a different brand, but I love them too.
I can
Can't see
change.
what they say. Let's get my glasses on because I'm 45 now. Let's be honest. Gioconda soft pastel. I love these also.
Mhm.
And then I also use, or I have used, I haven't used them in a while, but they're actually pretty inexpensive acrylic markers. This brand is Batem. So they can make some thinner lines. And then, of course, paint wise, I love Golden, Liquitex. Those are my go tos. But I also love Amsterdam, the expert acrylics. I love, I really like some of the Blick Artists acrylics. I think they're actually probably made by Liquitex. They're from
Mm.
the Blick stores. Um, so I like some of these a lot. And I also like, there are a few of the standard Amsterdam acrylics that I really like because of the color that I can't quite ever mix on my own. And that's this one in particular is warm gray, and I love it. It's kind of almost paints like a brown.
Mm.
I think it complements like vibrant color so
Yes,
well.
very, very lovely.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that you use such thin materials like pencils and pastels on these such big canvases. Um,
It's all in the details. But also like paintbrush wise, you know, I run the gamut also. So I have some really nice brushes. Then I have like the cheapest painters brushes that I've had for years. I use super thin brushes, all sizes. Um, I love using these types of tools to kind of spread things like similar to a palette knife. But then I also have massive palette knives that I use. And then
mm,
I have smaller palette knives, and these I love using the tip of them to kind of like carve out paint that I've already laid down. So I wait till it's like just almost dry and then carve it away to get the underlayer. It's awesome.
mhm. Thank you so much for showing all the
Yeah.
materials. And how do you work? How do you build the color palette? Do you prepare it before, or maybe also with the colors? Do you use the already mixed colors, or do you mix colors by
I
yourself?
I do both, and I'm a really sloppy artist. I wish I could say that I like had a really nice palette and kept it clean, but this is what my palette looks like. It's totally gross. It has like paper on it, and it's about 17
No,
layers thick.
I find it beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Here's the other side.
This one
I
is too very
just
beautiful.
I hate I do not like cleaning. I clean all day long in my house after my family, and so when I'm in my studio, I like to keep it real. But then I also use palette paper. And
Mhm.
then I use the palette paper as wrapping paper. So I save it and I like to reuse it as wrapping paper so it doesn't go to waste. But yeah, I usually have an idea of like the base colors of what I want a painting to be. So this particular one, I was super into the like neon red mixed
Mhm.
with the mixed with some light blues and blushes, and I'll just build it out from there. And often I will, you know, the colors that I start with, I end up painting over. So sometimes it doesn't pan out the way that I want it to. Um, but yeah, I use things straight from I use colors straight from the jars, but I also mix colors to kind of get to where I want them to be at. But I'm like I said, I'm sloppy to the point where I literally just put my paintbrush into the jar of paint instead of using a palette sometimes.
Uh, Considering painting over, do you struggle with perfectionism in painting? Um, is it easy for you to, okay, next layer I will, I mean, what is your experience with perfectionism if we talk about creating artworks?
I That's not something that I have struggled with in a really long time, actually, because I feel like there's no such thing as perfectionism. And I think that having a yoga practice really has translated into my painting practice, really realizing that it's all just practice, and that there is no perfect. And at some point, I just know a painting is done because I feel like it's done, like it just, it's right. Um, but it certainly isn't perfect.
that's wonderful. It sounds for me like you have strong connections with your feelings and just intuition, and you trust.
Hmm.
Do you
It's
trust your what you feel?
yeah, it's just
And
everything is very intuitive.
um, what advice would you give to some beginner artists who would love to explore the abstract art and just I understand that it's very personal, but anyway, if your sons would ask you, Mom, I would love to be an abstract artist, what
Hmm.
advice would you give to them?
Just paint, just do it, or draw, just practice. Keep doing it. Experiment, use all the tools, use all of the materials, find what works best for you. I mean, you can take classes just to see, like, to learn some techniques, but I know so many artists that have never taken an art class in their lives and have just done it, and a lot of it is just making sure that you show up and experiment and have fun and stop thinking, start feeling, and just do it. Joan Rivers once said um, something along the lines of, I was fortunate enough to walk through every door that ever opened for me. And I feel like I try to follow that. Like, just, there's nothing to be afraid of. And especially as I get older, I'm realizing that more and more, like, life's short. If this is something that you want to do it. Make the time for it. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, that's wonderful advice. And when do you work on the collection? What is the process then? Is there any difference working on a single artwork or on a collection?
I generally work on collections if I'm working towards sending stuff out to galleries, or working for a show. Um, I I always try to, like, release collections. It doesn't really ever pan out well for me like some other artists. I guess it's just not my thing. Even though I do it, I totally do it. That's not how I'm realizing that's not how my work sells. But if I am working on a collection, um, I will have more of a set palette. I will have more of a set idea, and I will generally choose my sizes to complement one another prior to starting the entire collection, and then kind of just make it happen. I usually want to have about oh, 5 to 7, maybe 6 to 8 pieces in a collection. I like to, for some reason, I'm an even number person, but I like an odd number better when I'm putting out work. Um, yeah. And then
Um,
I just, I work on all the pieces at the same time, which sounds maybe crazy, but I really feel like every piece talks to one another. And even when I'm not working on collections in general, I'm usually working on about 20 things at once, just because I don't have the patience to wait for paint to dry. And so I want it all, I want it all to play off one another.
how do you prepare your artworks to exhibitions? Do you frame them by yourself? What is some technical details there? If the exhibition, the gallery isn't in your town, then you probably somehow peg these big canvases. Can
Yeah,
you tell us?
I haven't really had many solo exhibitions at other galleries. I've been more where I'll have one or two pieces in group shows, or multiple pieces in group shows, but it runs the gamut. Sometimes I can just, if they're large pieces, I can ship pieces rolled and they'll stretch it for me when it gets there. Other times I'll frame some pieces in the collection and not all of them. Um, but for the most part, it's just, you know, 1.5 inch canvas. I ship them ready to hang. Um, I take stuff to my local packing store and have them pack things up when they're super large. But otherwise, most people that get work from me knows that they're gonna come in like a box full of garbage because I don't like to waste anything. Um, and I reuse packing materials when I can because it's better for the environment. And it's also, as an artist who is trying to make their way, packing material is really expensive. So my in-laws moved across the country. They had boxes and boxes and boxes of artwork, and I took all of their boxes back, and I've been slowly making my way through them. So yeah, I either pack it myself or I send it off to a local place to pack it. But generally, it's a layer of paper, brown paper, cardboard on either side, bubble wrap, some other stuff in the boxes, boxed, ready to go.
Mhm. Uh, do you make and sell any prints that are a copy of your canvases?
I
No.
have in the past. You can get some prints on my Saatchi page, so they'll do the prints directly from there. But generally speaking, especially with my mainly abstract work, prints don't really translate for my stuff. They're too flat, and it doesn't come through, and I don't want to put something out that I don't stand by. So generally no, but there are some pieces available on Saatchi.
So all your income is from the selling originals, right? Uh,
Hmm.
do you plan it somehow for a year? So I have to create, I don't know, 10 pieces to have this kind of, or is it just how it goes?
No, because what I've realized is that I can't really plan because it doesn't ever pan out the way that you want it to. And so I just paint and kind of fly by the seat of my pants and hope that things sell. And um, sometimes I'll have work sitting around for years and years and years, and then it'll finally find a home. That makes me really excited because I feel like that connection was meant to be. Um, but yeah, some years are better than others. Some months are better than others. Some quarters are better than others. And I'm fortunate enough to not be the solo income in my family. But I certainly, um, I certainly realize that it's always going to be ebbs and flows in this industry.
Mhm. Well, were there any cases when people come to you and ask, "Oh, I love this artwork. Could you please create something like this for me, but in green, blue tones, or I don't know, or with what do you
Oh,
think about?"
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I love doing commission work. I love seeing the space prior to doing the work. I want it to be more of like a collaboration, basically, where I'm doing the work, but we're talking about exactly what you want. And yeah, a lot of times people will come to me and say, "Hey, I love this, but I want something bigger, or I want something square shaped, not rectangle. Can you do this?" Sure.
Mhm.
I love it. It's fun. It's a challenge, and it's a super challenge because, you know, sometimes people don't like what you present to them. And I really only had that happen once or twice. Once,
What did
actually.
what did what did you do?
I ended up doing three other pieces, the same size in various like with a little tweaks here and there,
Mhm.
and um, they ended up with the original piece.
Yeah.
After all,
Yeah, that's funny.
Because they realized that it worked better in their space. And I'm not an interior designer, but I do feel like I know of my work. I know what's going to work in this person's house or this person's office.
My last question for today is, so looking back, what would you tell your younger self when you first started this journey?
Just stay with it, keep going. Don't take yourself so seriously. Um, have fun and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I can see that you really have fun with your art and how
Mm-hmm.
when you're sharing everything, it feels like it's so natural for you, like it's just your life, not a kind of it's my art. It's part of you, and I can feel it looking at you and how you talk about your art and your
Well,
art.
it's so funny because my husband said to me before, I haven't done an Instagram live or an interview or like a chat like this in a really long time, actually. Um,
Sorry, I can't hear you. uh,
Going through this, that I actually really enjoyed myself and I do like it. So maybe I need to show my face a little more.
yes, of course. I think it's wonderful when artists share why they create, what they create, because it's your expression of you, of yourself, of your soul in these artworks, and
Mm-hmm.
we are as your clients or viewers who see the art. It's very valuable, important to feel this connection with a person who created this. So yeah, please share more.
Thanks. Thanks for
Yeah,
having me.
yeah, thank you so much, and
Yeah, it was so nice to meet you.
wish you to have more fun with your artworks.
Thanks. You too. I love your stuff.
Yeah, thank you very much. Have a nice
Okay.
day.
You
Bye,
too. Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for coming.